kind of how I take necks, fretboards off occasionally. Just get the little tiny taps, get the thing, get this rag wet. This here helps it from blushing so much and keeps things warm. So I put this on, a little pressure on it, and then get that good and wet. Put that on there, and slowly tap away. Not too much, just slight taps, and you can see it's moving pretty good. Once you get the glue to soften up, she goes pretty good. I don't know if you can tell, but each tap it moves a little bit more. Then I move this up a little bit, put a little more pressure on it. It's going pretty good. I mean, didn't take much, just a little bit of love taps is one way to do it. There's a lot, I've done it so many different ways. I think the secret is not to get overly aggressive, which I have in the past. I broke things. Mistakes were made. In the back here I have a little chisel just to add a little pressure on the neck. And now that I'm getting close to the body, I'm going to put some paper down. I don't want that to blush at all, if I can help it. Put the paper in there. The steam has a tendency to travel quite a ways, and just if you can do anything to help it from blushing, that's cool. I mean, it's a poly finish, probably 80s or something. This is a, what do you call it? A Lotus. It's a plywood body. It's an inexpensive guitar, but it's just kind of so cool. It's like an Iceman or something. So my buddy wants me to fix it, so I'm going to. And the truss rod in this guitar is so rusty. For one, it's rusty and just totally wasted, and it doesn't give enough, doesn't have enough power to bend this neck back. But by taking the fret off, I think the fretboards kind of shrink over time and cause the thing to, or actually, I'm not sure if it's the neck of the fretboard, but they shrink and they allow one side holds it and the other one shrinks, and then it bows so much that the truss rod won't work. So all you really need to do is take the fretboard off and re-glue it flat, and 90% of the time it takes care of the problem. So, but I'm going to replace the rusty truss rod. All it takes is a few love taps. So you don't hit hard, don't get overly aggressive. Like I said, I've been overly aggressive. In fact, I've been overly aggressive recently. So it's, even though you learn over time, you still make mistakes when you get older. But she's almost off. She's pretty close. This one might get rethreaded. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I think I'm going to go get this wet again. You don't want it sopping wet, but you definitely want it be wet enough to transfer the heat and to keep the steam from you want to keep the steam from you know, ruining the finish, blushing the finish. I'm always at a loss for words. My brain doesn't think very fast, apparently. I've had a few guitars where over the years, you know, they start to let loose here and someone has taken super glue in there. And man, oh man, at that point it's game over. You can't really save the fretboard, so you better make sure you have an extra couple of fretboards hanging around, huh? Oh man, I think we're about there. Oh, it's off. Oh no, not quite, not quite. Almost, almost. Okay, now we're there. Can unplug that, and voila. You can see how much pressure was on that truss rod. I mean, look how much. And it still wasn't pulling this thing straight. But I can pretty much guarantee you now, usually, I will say usually, but not always, but once you take the fretboard off, these things go pretty flat. Oops. And wouldn't you know it, look at that. That thing is way flatter than it was and doesn't take much pressure at all to bring it up. So anyway, clamp down before she, don't want it to cement itself in that position. I just have these heavy steel weights, and they are heavy. They're solid steel. But anyways, I'm going to put a modern truss rod in here. This one is huge. And well, I might be able to save it. We'll see. But it is just rusty. Look at that. Is that rusty or what? This whole guitar is pretty rusty. You wonder, is it worth saving? And I pretty much think almost any guitar is worth saving, regardless of value. Anyway, that's how you get a neck off. I meant to say that's how you get a fretboard off a neck. I think what happens with these old guitars is that the fretboard, it's rosewood, and this one here is mahogany. The neck is mahogany, but the fretboard, I think they shrink, and then I think it pulls the neck into a heck of a bow, and then no matter what you do, the truss rod is not going to straighten them out. And so, like I said before, if you just take the fretboard off and reglue it, a lot of times that takes enough stress off that it ends up working just fine again. So anyways, like I said, I'm going to probably replace this truss rod. However, it looks like it kind of works. It's got one hell of a bow in it, so maybe this one's good. I might be able to clean it up. It's just hard to say. If I do put a modern one in here, I'm going to have to fill that up with wood, and then because the fretboards that are modern, they're quite a bit thinner than the other ones. So here's an example of a modern truss rod right here. This is a two-way truss rod, but you can see it just massive room in there, way too much slop, so it would have to be filled, which is no problem, but it's a lot more work. And being a cheap guitar, I might just go ahead and take this truss rod apart, clean it up, and make it work the way it was supposed to. So anyway, So I wire brushed this truss rod, and it's good enough. I got that thing to move pretty easily by hand. It was pretty frozen on there. And then I wire brush this. I need to put some tape around it when I put it back together. I'm going to put it back in the guitar and then glue the fretboard back on. And so it had tape wrapped here, here, and here, and then on the sides there was even some tape. And I'll do the same, probably to keep it from rattling. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put some indexing pins in here, because when you glue them, it has a tendency to float, and you don't want this thing to be glued and then find out it slid on you. So I'm going to put an indexing pin at this end, and then I'm going to put an indexing pin at this end, and then I'm going to go ahead and flip it, clap it down on two wood runners, so that this is humped out here, and so to get the edges to completely glue flush, I do that, and it helps. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll replace some of the missing binding and stuff like that. But anyways, coming along nicely. Okay, you can see I've used some drills for the pins to hold this thing in perfect alignment, so when I glue it, it won't shift. Okay. And she's ready to glue, so I'm going to go get some glue and get her going. And you can see I used some duct tape on there to keep that thing just the way it was before. Wrapped it around there to keep it from rattling inside there. There's nothing more frustrating than having a guitar that the truss rod rattles. Okay, and I save my old broken drills of the same size, and then I take them out to my cutter and I cut them off, and I use the same exact diameter drill that I drilled it with originally, so there's no slop in it at all. So, okay, I wanted to show you my table before I glue this neck down. This is just an old tabletop that I had cut off. And I put these stands on it to hold it up in the air, like that, so that I'm able to get the clamps underneath and clamp things to it. This is also the table that I use to get the belly out of guitars. I steam the inside, and then I lay the thing flat, and the bridge sits here, and the neck kind of, see where I cut it out a bit, and then I clamp it down, and that helps flatten the belly on some guitars, not all. You have to, there's a lot to it, so you have to know stuff. But anyways, that's what I'm going to use. Okay, we're ready to glue the fretboard back on. And I just use it straight out of the can. I actually thin it out a lot of times, just a pinch. But I'm just going to go ahead and thin it. I got my clamps all set up here. So I'm just going to put glue on. I'm going to put glue on top of also oh, I'm going to have to loosen that because I forgot I tightened it up. You don't want anything sticking up and impeding the glue. So I'll loosen the truss rod just a pinch so she doesn't stick up, and there she goes. She goes all the way down now. Now before I start, I always get my sticks lined up to glue to. I have it set so that they're kind of on the outside, and it applies pressure to the outside to make sure you got a good clean fit on flush fit on the outside. Now also you need to make sure that the fretboard is completely flat, which it is, other than that sticking up a little bit, and the fretboard as well. And this fretboard, luckily, it did not warp, take it off. It is completely flat. So I use this as my gauge, Stanley boxed blade. So anyway, so once you're ready, you just apply the glue, have a rag ready to get the squeeze out. I use this to spread it around with, just those things from Harbor Freight. Kind of get all the stuff off. And when you put the glue down, make sure when you're done you don't have any of these fibers in there, because sometimes they fall out. But anyway, just put it on. Squeeze out is good. I'm going to get a little bit of glue on top of this too, to anything to help that thing from rattling, and these cheap guitars is a good thing. A lot of times I thin this out because it's easier to spread. And I probably wish I would have thinned this a little bit because it's pretty thick stuff. I put glue on both sides to make sure that get no dry spots. And of course, I'm using a Titebond original. Can you see that? In case you got to take this fretboard off again, you'd be happy you used it. I've actually had to take them off again before when they got mislocated because at the time I wasn't using these indexing pins. This glue, it really will float whatever you're gluing together if you're not watching or paying attention, you get screwed up. Okay, and you just put this baby on. Finding the indexing pins can be kind of a fun thing at times. There we go. That one's on. There we go. And just flip her down, line her up so you got even stuff on both sides. Oh boy. Okay. Then with the rubber things on the top, unfortunately I've lost, I don't know where these things go. You take them off and then set them aside and the next thing you know they're gone. I've seen guys use that wrapping stuff. They just wrap the hell out of these things, you know. But I like to put them on something flat to make sure that they stay flat. And then since I'm out of the rubber things, I use these on the heel where you're not going to see it. Darn, I wish I'd made that a little bit closer to the outside. I think it's going to be okay. And you get all your squeeze out, and there's quite a bit, so that's a good. Squeeze out is good as long as you clean it up. I might have to put new binding on this thing. It's pretty brittle. I hate to do that because it's just more time on it. And you know, inexpensive guitar is what I should say. I don't want to say cheap, but it definitely was, you know. Okay, we'll let her dry and see what she looks like when she's done. Okay, and just like that, after it's been drying for overnight, curing overnight, she's back on. I've tightened the truss rod. Got a heck of a little back bow on it now, where before I could not get it straight. So now we're in good shape, and so there you have it. That's how you fix a neck that's really, really bowed. Okay, thanks. And after untightening the neck, she is completely flat. Well, I can't talk with my glasses off. And you can see, yeah, she's pretty much flat. So we'll see what happens now when I get the guitar back together. I'll put some strings on it and see what that does, and I'll probably end up having to tighten the truss rod a little bit. And I have to feel the little holes I put in there. You can see the holes for the caulking holes. But anyway, so you have it. Thanks for watching.